The man stood on the gallows, the noose already tight around his neck, but he didn't beg. He didn't pray. Instead, he threw a piece of parchment into the crowd. Some say he smiled as he did it. Others say he whispered, "Find my treasure if you can." That moment on July the 7th, 1730, would ignite a mystery that still haunts treasure hunters to this day. Because the man being hanged wasn't just a pirate. He was Olivier Levasseur, better known as Buse, or the Buzzard, one of the most ruthless privateers of the Indian Ocean. And that parchment, a cryptogram, 17 lines of strange symbols and ciphers. According to legend, it holds the key to a hidden fortune beyond imagination. But for nearly 300 years, no one has cracked it. Some say the treasure lies buried on a remote island. Others believe it was never real at all. But here's the strange part. It's not just the cryptogram that's mysterious. It's what's been found since then. And what hasn't. Levasseur didn't begin as a myth. He began as a man. Born in Calais, France, around 1688, Olivier Levasseur wasn't always destined for piracy. Records suggest he came from a respectable background. Some even believe he was educated, possibly trained in navigation or law. But France in the early 1700s was in flux. Wars, economic instability, and an expanding colonial empire created a perfect storm. Young men were often conscripted, and the seas offered either salvation or ruin. Levasseur took to the sea, first as a corsair, a government-licensed pirate. During the War of Spanish Succession, he received a lettre de marque, essentially a hall pass to raid enemy ships. Under the French flag, he attacked English and Dutch vessels, seizing cargo, gold and spice in the name of the crown. But when peace came in 1714, that letter lost its power. Many privateers were out of work. Some retired. But Levasseur, he kept going. He shed his flag and became a pirate in the purest sense. No loyalties. No limits. Just the hunt. What set him apart was precision. Unlike chaotic raiders Levasseur planned, he studied merchant routes, weather patterns, naval deployments. He allied with other feared pirates like John Taylor and Edward England, creating a web of coordinated attacks across the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. But it wasn't just bloodlust. He had a code. Some said he avoided harming the innocent. Others said he offered prisoners fair ransoms. Yet the myth around him only grew darker. In 1721, Levasseur and Taylor pulled off one of the greatest pirate heists in history. Off the coast of Réunion Island, they intercepted the Nossa Senhora do Cabo, a Portuguese galleon returning from Goa, India. The ship wasn't a war vessel, it was a floating treasure chest. It carried riches from colonial holdings in Asia, gold bars, silver ingots, ivory, pearls, silks, spices, diamonds, emeralds, and holy artifacts bound for Lisbon. Among them was the prized loot, the Goa cross, a diamond-encrusted relic weighing over 100 pounds, stolen from the Cathedral of Goa. The value of the cargo, when adjusted for inflation, would be well over $1 billion today. But here's the unsettling part. Almost none of it was recovered. Levasseur kept raiding for years after that. But when he was finally captured and tried in 1730, none of the treasure was with him. He was hanged in Saint-Denis, with no fortune, no fleet, and no clear legacy, except for that one cryptic parchment he tossed to the crowd. And from that moment, the real mystery began. The cryptogram wasn't just a map, it was a challenge. Written in strange symbols, it resembled nothing anyone had seen before. Astrological signs, Greek letters, strange crosses, dots and spirals. Early versions that surfaced decades later show 17 lines of encrypted riddles, full of metaphors, archaic French, and references to stars, paths, and gates. One line reads, "When the full moon passes the eye of the serpent, the gate will open." Another speaks of the twins that guard the treasure, possibly alluding to Gemini. Others mention the water that burns and the fire that speaks. It sounded like poetry, or madness, or both. For over a century, nothing came of it. The parchment was rumored to have changed hands, sold at auctions, lost in fires. No one could prove it even existed. But then came Reginald Cruz Wilkins. A British historian and amateur codebreaker, Cruz Wilkins became obsessed with Levasseur's legend in the 1940s. He moved to Mahé, Seychelles, and began searching. To him, the cryptogram wasn't a puzzle. It was a sacred text, steeped in esoteric knowledge. He believed Levasseur was a Freemason or had been influenced by Masonic rites. His theory, the treasure was hidden in a cave system designed around the 12 labors of Hercules. Each line of the cryptogram was a trial. Each trial required knowledge, astronomy, mythology, symbology to advance. Cruz Wilkins spent 27 years digging at Bel Ombre, a coastal area on Mahé Island. He uncovered hidden shafts, carved steps, booby traps, and water channels designed to flood chambers if triggered. On the cave walls, he found symbols eerily similar to those of the cryptogram. A snake curling around a sun, a star with 7 points, a chalice. It looked deliberate, but every path led to another dead end. He died without finding the treasure. His son, John, took up the hunt. For decades, he's continued the excavation, enduring tropical storms, government roadblocks, and dwindling funds. He's found tools, ropes, and tunnels, but no gold, and no cross. Only the cryptogram, staring back, as defiant as the day it was thrown. Some now believe the cryptogram isn't solvable without one missing piece, an object called the Black Key, a rumored cipher device that Levasseur's men used to encode messages. A few accounts say it was shaped like a sextant, others like a stone tablet. If it existed, it's lost or hidden. And without it, the symbols remain stubbornly silent. But that hasn't stopped the theories. In fact, it's only encouraged them. One theory connects the cryptogram to the lost knowledge of the Templars. The Knights Templar, dissolved in the 1300s, were rumored to have escaped with vast treasure. Some stories suggest they sailed to Scotland, then to the Canary Islands, and eventually to the Indian Ocean. The Templar cross, an 8-pointed star, appears in parts of the cryptogram. So do references to the Guardian of the Temple, the Trial of Light, and the Unbroken Line. If Levasseur had access to Templar relics or descended from a Masonic lineage, it would explain the code's complexity. It wasn't just meant to hide wealth, it was meant to protect sacred knowledge. But what knowledge? Some suggest it's alchemical, maps not just of geography, but of transformation. Others say it encodes forbidden history, documents that would rewrite colonial narratives, expose hidden alliances, or reveal religious secrets buried by empires. And then there are those who believe it's even older, pre-Christian, tied to ancient Egyptian star cults or Phoenician navigators. That would mean the treasure isn't just Levasseur's. He might have added to it, but the roots go back centuries. This might explain the eerie astronomical references. One line of the cryptogram says, "When the eye blinks twice and the hunter follows the bull, the gate shall lift." It sounds absurd until you map the sky. During early May, the constellation Orion, the hunter, rises behind Taurus, the bull. On the night of the second full moon in spring, the moon aligns briefly with a particular cave entrance on Mahé. And when it does, sunlight reflects off a pool of water inside the cave in a way that resembles an eye opening and closing. That's not coincidence. That's design. But design by whom? Levasseur wasn't an architect. He wasn't a stonemason. And yet the cave system, if built by him, required engineering skills, tools, and manpower well beyond our ragtag pirate crew. Which raises another theory. Levasseur didn't build it. He found it. Some say he stumbled onto an older site, perhaps Templar, perhaps indigenous, perhaps even pre-colonial, and chose it as his hiding place. That would explain why parts of the cave don't match 18th century tools. Drill marks suggest the use of steel chisels, not common in pirate stockpiles. One chamber even has a domed ceiling, an architectural flourish completely unnecessary for a treasure vault. Unless it wasn't meant to be a vault at all. Unless it was a temple. Other evidence supports this. In 2014, researchers scanning a plateau above Belle Ombre found a stone slab with spiral carvings and a sun wheel, symbols associated with solar cults. Underneath, ground-penetrating radar revealed a void. A chamber sealed. Authorities banned excavation, citing safety concerns. But locals say the government is protecting something. Whether it's structural or symbolic, no one knows. But even more bizarre is the Guardian line. According to Seychellois oral history, there's a family descended from a freed slave who once served Levasseur. This family, now scattered across Mahé and Madagascar, allegedly guards part of the secret. In 1991, a woman claiming to be part of this bloodline showed researchers an heirloom, a locket containing a rolled piece of parchment. It wasn't the cryptogram, but it had similar symbols. When asked what it meant, she said, "It opens the path when the time is right." But she refused to give it up. She died in 2003. The locket vanished. To this day, stories of coded heirlooms, hidden caves, and celestial gates circulate among treasure hunters. Some believe the final clue lies in a poem, an obscure French verse published in 1935 that matches phrases from the cryptogram. Others think the key is numeric, and the cryptogram must be overlaid with a 17-point star chart to unlock the secrets. But no one agrees on the method. Some seek stars, others seek stone, and still the treasure remains unfound. This leaves one final theory, perhaps the darkest, that the treasure never existed. That Levasseur, facing death, concocted the ultimate riddle not to protect wealth, but to preserve his name. A pirate's final joke. A riddle that would haunt generations. But if that were true, why the symbols in the cave? Why the cross? Why the countless objects that seem deliberately placed, just to drive the search forward? There's something there. Too many clues. Too much intent. And the people who've chased this ghost have paid dearly. Reginald Cruz Wilkins died in debt. His son John lives in quiet obscurity, still digging. Other hunters have lost fortunes, sanity, even their lives chasing what they call La Buse's curse. One man disappeared in the jungle in 1979. Another went blind after a cave collapse. Accidents, perhaps. But the pattern is eerie. It's almost as if the treasure protects itself. And maybe, in a way, it does. Because it's no longer just about gold. It's about obsession. Legacy. The belief that somewhere, buried under centuries of soil and secrecy, is a truth worth everything. A truth Levasseur took to the grave. But he didn't take it alone. He left us the riddle.